If we deliver to the Afghan people what we promised, this will be a great day. If we don't deliver, this will go into oblivion.
He vowed to stamp out terrorism, drugs, corruption, and to unite the Afghan people, none of which he's been able to deliver. But was it a question of character or circumstance? And has President Karzai been as good as his word?
نه د تروریزم مخه ونیولی شو چې پاکستان سره ځي او نه د ائتلاف مخه نیسو چې د تروریزم په خلاف بمباري کوي او زموږ بچیان پکې مري. ظلم تر حد چې رسوي دي.
This mild-mannered man was chosen to bring prosperity and peace to a conflict-ridden Afghanistan 8 years ago. The US-backed Karzai was multilingual and an eloquent communicator. Yet most Afghans didn't even know who he was. During Afghanistan's 2 decades of conflict following the 1979 Soviet invasion, he was one of many Afghan refugees living in Pakistan's western border city, Quetta. There, Hamid Karzai made a name for himself among the international community, liaising between Western diplomats and opposition groups fighting to end the Soviet occupation. And that relationship continued during Afghanistan's ensuing civil war and the 5 years of Taliban rule that followed, even though Western interest had by then dissipated with the defeat of the Russians. But the interest was reawoken in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks as US forces sought to destroy the Taliban, who had been accused of harboring al-Qaeda's leadership. Within weeks, the Taliban government was surrendering. Meanwhile, Afghan and international delegates convening in Bonn elected Hamid Karzai chairman of the interim administration of Afghanistan. With his reputation for bringing warring sides together, he was the obvious choice. From the outset, Karzai presented himself as a man of the people.
I came to Kabul all alone from Kandahar. When I was appointed as president, I did not bring any security with myself because I wanted to bring a sense to this country that whoever is in Kabul as an Afghan, as a fellow countryman, is my security. And I think that was the most important decision that I made, to bring unity to Afghanistan.
To the outside world, his position was also clear.
While the Afghans are too sad as the Americans, they're grateful to the American people for making us win our war against terrorism. And we will continue to do that till we have finished them all and put them on trial. I want the people in New York to see the faces of those people on trial on TVs and to see that they receive justice. That we will do, that's a promise, and we will deliver on that.
But the world continues to wait. Violence in Afghanistan today is endemic. More than 500 civilians were killed in the first 6 months of 2009 alone by anti-government forces. But back in 2001, Karzai had been assured of US and international support in seeking out extremist elements that threatened Afghanistan's security. At the time, Karzai's words merely echoed those of his partner in the war on terror, former US President George W. Bush.
We want to finish terrorism in Afghanistan completely. We want the last remnants of them out of the caves, out of the mountains, out of the hideouts, wherever they are. And we will not stop till we've finished them. Take that for granted. There's no let out there. And we will do whatever we want together with the international community to see to that achievement.
And within 18 months, Karzai was to declare his own mission accomplished.
I am not worried about the resurgence of the Taliban. There will not be. The Taliban movement as a movement is finished, is gone. The individuals that cross into Afghanistan from the Afghan borders from time to time, that we are very much capable to handle. We don't see a threat from them.
Afghanis and their new leader celebrated the ousting of the Taliban government. It seemed Afghanistan was ushering in a new era of peace and security, but international attention was already moving to another front. Karzai was quick to register his concern.
If you reduce the tension because of Iraq to Afghanistan, and if you leave the whole thing to us to fight again, it will be repeating the mistakes that the United States made during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. Once the Soviets left, the Americans left.
Left to his own devices, Karzai's own strategy involved reaching out to moderate elements within the Taliban movement.
What do we do? Do we take this country to war again and remove some people by force and kill each other? Or do we bring everybody together and make peace, all of us together, for this country? We must give people a chance to come and participate.
But the Taliban did not respond to his overtures, and their defiance merely drew attention to Karzai's failures in creating lasting security. Killings and kidnappings became common, and foreigners were increasingly targeted. In October 2004, 3 UN workers were abducted by a Taliban splinter group. The hostages were eventually released, but Karzai's authority had been seriously undermined.
I hope that a thing like this will never happen in Afghanistan again. The Afghan people detest it. The Afghan people hate activities like this. This goes against the very nature of the Afghan hospitality, of Afghan traditions.
But similar incidents did take place. In 2007, 23 South Korean aid workers were captured by the Taliban. The hostage crisis dragged on for 6 weeks, with Karzai's government seemingly powerless to intervene. And this time, the hostages did not all make it out alive. A resurgent Taliban was by now forcing Karzai to go back on his word regarding the Taliban leadership.
As far as Mullah Omar and his associates are concerned, if I hear from him, this you should note very properly, if I hear from him that he is willing to come to Afghanistan or to negotiate for peace and for the well-being of the Afghans so that our children are not killed anymore, I, as the president of Afghanistan, will go to any length to provide him protection. If I say I want protection for Mullah Omar, the international community has 2 choices: remove me or leave, if they disagree. And both are good. If I'm removed in the cause of peace for Afghanistan by force by them, then I'll be very happy. But if they disagree, they can leave. But we are not in that stage yet.
But his forgive and forget approach was increasingly interpreted as a weakness, both at home and abroad. Something that even Karzai didn't wholly deny.
A strong man means what? If you want me to be a man that pushes people around, if you want me to be a man that will be a bit more prone to use of force, I would never be that man.
Yet Karzai has used force throughout his tenure, foreign force, and it is the presence of these foreign troops on Afghan soil that has hampered the president's vision of unity. But to Karzai, they are a necessary evil.
We were a country occupied by terrorist networks and their backers. They were destroying our lives on a daily basis. They were destroying mosques. They were completely preventing life from progressing in Afghanistan. And the rest of the world came when the Twin Towers were hit from Afghanistan. Though we wanted them to come years before September 11, Afghanistan knew that we would not be able to free ourselves from the grips of terrorists without the help of the international community.
But the thousands of international troops stationed in Afghanistan have failed to capture the masterminds of 9/11. Instead, it is civilians whose daily lives have been blighted by both pro- and anti-government forces waging war. Adding insult to injury, reports circulated of the mistreatment and humiliation of Afghan prisoners. Attempting to placate the protesters, Karzai promised a robust response and revealed a split with his American sponsors.
We've asked that we want our prisoners to be kept in Afghan prisons, period.
We have told them that the United States and the coalition came here based on the Security Council resolution. That time, Afghanistan decision was not taken. Afghanistan did not have a government to give a decision. Afghanistan was not in charge. Today, Afghanistan is in charge. No operation should be conducted in Afghanistan without the permission of the Afghan government, without the consultation of the Afghan government. Afghanistan now is owned by the Afghan people. It is not owned by the international community or America or Europe or anybody else. It is owned by the Afghan people.
Strong words were one thing, but strong actions another. By 2008, Karzai appeared to be defending civilian casualties, as unfortunate but inevitable.
As much as we get angry in Afghanistan, I get personally angry from time to time on these bombing raids into our villages, and I've raised my voice. But that is a voice raised with a friend for correction, not otherwise. The Afghan people would ask for a change in the way we do things, but they would very much want to continue this journey with the United States into a better future for Afghanistan and a world free from the scourge of terrorism.
The Afghan people, however, seem no longer content with anyone speaking on their behalf. Foreign forces are increasingly seen as occupiers, and Karzai the leader of a puppet government. And the international community has now joined the Afghan people in demanding much more of the president.